Hello, members, guests, and subscribers of the channel. My name is Yuri. Welcome to the live show. Today, we are continuing to review important concepts from the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. This is part 4 of this book review, and hopefully, we'll be able to finish it today. I included the link of the electronic PDF book in the video description below. So definitely take a moment to check it out. And if you're enjoying this book and the things that we're talking about, you can certainly even save this PDF on your hard drive. Remember that in order for me to see your comments and to see who is currently watching this live show live, you have got to leave me a comment. And as I continue to tell you every single time I go live, it makes a big difference when our live viewers engaging, because that's what makes these live shows meaningful. I want to know your opinions. I want to know your experiences. So please be sure to leave a comment in response to what's going to be discussed. Leave a question, and that way we will continue the conversation. Speaking of the community, there are a couple different ways for you to engage in the community. One of them is Discord server. And we have prototypefam Discord server where we have people from all over the world interacting with each other. Think of it as a chat room with different topics of discussion. This is absolutely free. You can contact me on Instagram and I will send you a link if you're interested in engaging and being part of this community, Discord community. For a next level of engagement, I also offer memberships. You can become a member of this channel, and information about membership also included in the video description below. As far as memberships, you're going to get some additional access and additional perks by being a member. And you can learn more about it through the link, and I included in the video description below. Let's see who we have with us live. Looks like we have Dia in the house. What's going on? We have Felicia in the house. What's up? We have Joanna in the house. What's going on? Heather in the house. Thank you for being here. We have Ruby in the house. UK is in the house. We have the Dolphin 1985 in the house. Thank you everyone for joining live. We have Jamie in the house. Shout out to all the wonderful members. You see this logo right next to their name. These are my beloved members from Prototype Fam community. Appreciate every single one of you. With that said, let's go ahead and jump in. I have my notebook that I meant to have by my side, but I have to reach for it because I left it not where it needs to be. But I'm going to go through some of the notes that I took, some of the good points, important points. And as always, let's make it useful for everyone. So leave your comments as we have in this conversation. Let me know your thoughts about what's going to be discussed. One moment. Here we go. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, how men unknowingly start arguments. So let's take a read of some of a part of this. The most common way men start arguments is by invalidating a woman's feelings or point of view. Men don't realize how much they invalidate. For example, a man may make light of a woman's negative feelings. He may say, "Oh, don't worry about it." To another man, this phrase would seem friendly, but to a female intimate partner, it is insensible and hurts. In another example, a man might try to resolve a woman's upset by saying it's not such a big deal. Then he offers some practical solution to the problem, expecting her to be relieved and happy. He doesn't understand that she feels invalidated and unsupported. She cannot appreciate his solution until he validates her needs to be upset. And the next thing, let's look at how women unknowingly start arguments. So, how women unknowingly start arguments. The most common way women unknowingly start arguments is by not being direct when they share their feelings. Instead of directly expressing her dislike or disapproval, a woman asks rhetorical question and unknowingly or knowingly communicates a message of disapproval. Even though sometimes this is not the message she wants to give is generally what a man will hear. For example, when a man is late, a woman may feel, I don't like I don't like waiting for you when you are late, or I was worried that something had happened to you. When he arrives, instead of directly sharing her feelings, she asks a rhetorical question like, how could you be so late? Or what am I supposed to think when you are so late? Or why didn't you call? So, a couple examples there that I think are useful. I can certainly relate to those because, when women tell you those things, it does make you feel like you being discipline, like you a little boy again, and your mom is disciplining you. Doesn't feel good, needless to say. And like reading these things also makes me realize that sometimes men can say things to invalidate how woman feels. And from what I'm learning a lot from this book, is a lot of it is just simply about acknowledging how woman feels. You might not agree with that as a man, but you got to be able to accept it and realize that this is not your feelings, it's her feelings, it's her world. The joke could be that your world, I'm just living in it, right? But at the very least, understand that you will feel something else. So these are useful tips in my opinion. Let's take a look. I think what starts an argument easy, the majority of women have triggers that men don't know about. Triggers. Triggers is a whole different story because if there is a trigger that will make you upset and I don't know about it or understand it, and quite frankly, even if I do know about it, doesn't make it right, doesn't make it just. If you trigger by something and then that comes out in a relationship, is it fair? And I would ask the same question um, for men. If men have triggers that create kind of a hostile environment or unfriendly environment in the relationship, is it a fair thing to be dealing with? Thank you for your comment. Keep them coming. Keep those comments coming. I love it. The next thing I wanted to look at is how to express your differences without arguing. So let's take a look at that. How to express your differences without arguing. Without healthy role models, expressing differences and disagreements can be a very difficult task. Most of our parents either did not argue at all, or when they did, it quickly it escalated into a fight. The following chart reveals how men and women unknowingly create arguments and suggest healthy alternatives. So let's take a look at some of the examples here, because the author is talking about the anatomy of an argument. And so when he comes home late, her rhetorical question, when he arrives late, she says, how could you be so late? Or why didn't you call? Or what am I supposed to think? The message he hears, the message he hears is, there is no good reason for you to be late. You are irresponsible. I would never be late. I am better than you. what he explains when he arrives late and she's upset, he explains there was a lot of traffic on the bridge, or sometimes life can be the way you want. Oh, sometimes life can't be the way you want. You can't expect me always be on time. The message she hears: you shouldn't be upset because I have these good and logical reasons for being late. Anyway, my work is more important than you, and you are too demanding. Now she can be less disapproving. How she can be less disapproving? She could say, I really don't like it when you are late. It is upsetting me to me. I would really appreciate a call next time you are going to be late. How he can be more validating? He says, I was late. I am sorry I upset you. Most important is to just listen without explaining much. Try to understand and validate what she needs to feel loved. I want to add something else here, because a lot of these things that we talk about, they also come back to choices. It's like choosing your battles. You have still a choice, oh, about things you're going to get upset. And yes, some things will naturally come up and it might bother you. And the question is how much of it should be suppressed and how much of it should be talked about every single time. Is it worth bringing up somebody running late 10 to 15 minutes? I mean, is it even worth it? I guess what I'm asking is, it's not about just keeping it inside. It's making a decision whether or not you're going to deem it important to you. Because if you're going to deem that important to you, for your significant other is running late 10 to 15 minutes, that's a little fight, a little point of the conversation that I would argue might not even be necessary. That's my take on it. I mean, because what are we going to do now? We're going to discuss every little thing that happens. That seemed to be rather extensive, in my opinion. I usually tell a guy not to say calm down. I don't like it when they get a warning. It can be simple as sitting a cup on the table without a coaster. That's my mom's trigger and she will go off. Oof. Yeah, that is definitely, it seemed to be a little thing, but like you said, everybody will look at things differently. Mine's is I ain't that serious when it be serious. Appreciate you sharing all. Scoring points with the opposite sex. Let's take a look at that. I'm gonna change the view to this. See if that works better. Just gotta find the slide. Yeah, I'm gonna be jumping around today a little bit because it's going to take a lot of time to go through all the books, and we don't need to go through all of it. We just need to find relevant information that really need to be discussed. So that's what I'm going to do today. This is what I'm going to do. So, scoring points with the opposite sex. A man thinks he scores high with the woman when he does something very big for her, like buying her a new car or taking her on a vacation. He assumes he scores less when he does something small, like opening the car door, buying her a flower, or giving her a hug. Based on this kind of scorekeeping, he believes he will fulfill her best by focusing his time, energy, and attention into doing something large for her. This formula, however, doesn't work because women keep score differently. When a woman keeps score, no matter how big or small a gift of love is, it scores 1 point. Each gift has equal value. Its size does not matter. It gets a point. A man, however, thinks he scores 1 point for one small gift and 30 points for a big gift. Since he doesn't understand that women keep score differently, he naturally focuses his energy into one or two big gifts. A man doesn't realize that to a woman the little things are just as important as the big things. In other words, to a woman, a single rose gets as many points as paying the rent on time. Without understanding this basic difference in scorekeeping, men and women are continuously frustrated and disappointed in their relationships. And then there's an example to illustrate that. What are your thoughts on this? Because this seems somewhat I was going to say unreasonable. That seems somewhat unreasonable to me. I mean, like paying a rent and one rose gets the same point. The effort that would need to be put in to get one rose and the effort that would need to be put in to pay the rent or to get you a car is not the same. So to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that the points will be distributed that way. Like, forget the points. It doesn't matter how you choose to reward that. Whether you choose to reward it with points, whether you choose to reward it by some other ways, but the difference in effort must be acknowledged differently, in my opinion. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Being on time is a sign that they value your time. It takes 3 seconds to text running late. No, but it says a lot. The point thing I think is because we put such a push on how much men make as a society. That reminds me of this TikTok of this guy that gifted his woman with package that had slips of paper that said rent, car note, etc. His point was that he didn't have to buy her anything else. But if a man got me a car, I would be floored. Yeah, if a woman bought me a car, I would be floored too. I gave her a lot of points. That's a bit extreme, a point system. It is a bit extreme, but this is what's going on. This is what we're talking about here. Apparently, it's the same. So let me know if you agree or disagree. There's a lot of ladies in the chat right now. So, do you agree that little things and big things should get the same point system? Let me know in the comments. If a man got me a car, I'll probably say, take it back, to be honest. Well, for you, most certainly. You see cars every single day, right? Let's see. Let's continue on. Little things make a big difference. There are a variety of ways a man can score points with his partner without having to do much. It is just a matter of redirecting the energy and attention he's already given. Most men already know about many of these things, but don't bother to do them because they don't realize how important the little things are to a woman. A man truly believes the little things are insignificant when compared to the big things he is doing for her. Some men may start out in a relationship doing the little things, but having done them once or twice, they stop. Though through some mysterious instinctive force, they begin to focus their energies into doing one big thing for their partner. They then neglect to do all the little things that are necessary for a woman to feel fulfilled in the relationship. To fulfill a woman, a man needs to understand what she needs to feel loved and supported. And it says the way women score points is not the way women score points is not just a preference but a true need. Women need many expressions of love in the relationship to feel loved. One or two expressions of love, no matter how important, will not anchor cannot fulfill her. So many expressions of love, that's what women need according to the author. And that does make sense because there's plenty of couples, I feel like, plenty of women that is, that being showered with money and with presents, but they still may not be happy in the relationship. They still may be looking and seeking for attention from their partner, for quality time, for acknowledgement, for validation. And I think later in this book it talks about how a busy man would have a hard time giving a lot of these things. So this is a pretty fascinating example right here because finding that balance between providing for your partner and then being able to give a lot of your own emotional energy, a lot of your own time to a partner, it could be very difficult. And I can see how where a lot of couples could struggle to find that balance. Michelle said point systems seem like a transaction. I think it depends on your relationship too. On the car, a boyfriend, I would say no. A husband, floored. On the car, if your boyfriend bought you a car, you would say no. But if a husband bought you a car, you would say yes and be floored. Is that what you're talking about? No, I gave more points for a car. Here we go. Here we go. Thank you. Thank you for that. Little things for me get me happy. I think points are just a way for them to say how we look at what they do. Maybe I will say, guy doing dishes is hot. So many points. That's right. After all that cooking, right, Jamie? It needs to be done. Just be considerate and thoughtful. Simple. When you show interest in each other's interest is probably bigger than any gift you could possibly give. When I get help with little things like cleaning or dishes, I am so happy. I don't want gifts, I just want help. Nice. Yes, I would not let a boyfriend buy me a car. Take this goddamn Mercedes back to the dealership. Yes. Balance and quality time also important, I think. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Let's talk about what man needs. Come on. Come on. So, the magic of doing little things. It's magic when a man does little things for his woman. It keeps her love tank full and the score even. When the score is even or almost even, a woman knows she is loved, which makes her more trusting and loving in return. When a woman knows she is loved, she can love without resentment. Doing little things for a woman is also healing for a man. In fact, those little things will tend to heal his resentments as well as hers. He begins to feel powerful and effective because she's getting the caring she needs. Both are then fulfilled. So what a man needs. Just as men need to continue doing little things for a woman, she needs to be particularly attentive to appreciate the little things he does for her. With a simple and thanks, with a smile, goodness gracious, with a smile and a thanks, she can let him know he has scored a point. A man needs his appreciation and encouragement to continue giving. He needs to feel he can make a difference. Man stop giving when they feel they are being taken for granted. A woman needs to let him know that what he's doing is appreciated. This doesn't mean that she has to pretend that everything is now perfectly wonderful because he has emptied the trash for her, but she can simply notice that he has emptied the trash and say thanks. Gradually, more love will flow from both sides. These are simple things. These are very simple things, yet I don't think that it's been done consistently. Acknowledgement and thank you goes a very long way. And truth be told, when you're in a relationship and when you especially being together for a while, you get to this weird place where you start taking things for granted. It becomes normal almost for people to expect their significant other to do something for them. And I actually have example of that. I remember when one of my best friends had a relationship. It was like 15 years ago, a while back, when he and his ex lived together. And it's gotten to a point where his ex, she just became a couch potato. She would sit on the couch and she had this attitude. There were a lot of stuff going on, but she would not appreciate the things that he would do for her. He would go and get food for her at the restaurant or at the store. He would bring her food. And I don't know if she would say thanks, but she had this entitlement, and she had this attitude that that was how it's supposed to be. She took him for granted 100%, and she would not voice these little things, little appreciations and signs. And guess what? He married another woman. He broke up with that woman and he married another woman. Now he got 2 kids. They live happy life because that his wife, she does appreciate him. She does do those little things. And there was no question in his mind. Like, it didn't take for him long to propose this to this other woman, which it's a completely different concept as well. Like finding your person. That's one thing I want to be able to touch on today, because a lot of those things that we're talking about with this book, I personally believe that when you find your person, a lot of these problems will be naturally solved. That's just my take on it. He better take the trash out. Are you gonna thank him for it, your mother? Or are you just gonna expect him to do that? Yeah, it's been a while. I'm glad you're here. Appreciate you joining. Keep those comments coming. Let me know what you think about simple appreciation. When man does something nice for you, should you be acknowledging that and saying thanks? Or are there any other circumstances under which it should be done without acknowledgement? I would love to know your thoughts. In the relationship, should you always acknowledge good deeds of your partner? Or is there situations, times where you would expect for that to be done normally? Let me know in the comments. While you're doing this, we're going to go to the next one. Why men give less? A man rarely intends to take more and give less, yet men are notorious for giving less in relationships. Probably you have experienced this in your relationships. Women commonly complain that their male partner starts out more loving and then gradually becomes passive. Men also feel unfairly treated. In the beginning, women are so appreciative and loving, and then they become resentful and demanding. This mystery can be understood when we realize how men and women keep score differently. There are five major reasons a man stop giving. So I'm not going to go through it very like in detail and read all of it, but I'm just going to read through them to you. So these five reasons are Martians, which are male, idealize fairness. So for men, remember that for a woman, big things and little things score 1 point. All gifts of love are equal. And for women, remember that men are from Mars. They are not automatically motivated to do the little things. So number two, Venusians, which are women, idealize unconditional love. A woman gives as much as she can and only notices that she has received less when she's empty and spent. So here for men, remember that when a woman gives with a smile on her face, it doesn't necessarily mean the score is close to even. For women, remember that when you give freely to a man, he gets the message the score is even. If you want to motivate him to give more, then gently and gracefully stop giving more. Interesting. Number three, Martians give when they are asked. So Martians pride themselves in being self-sufficient. They don't ask for help unless they really need it. On Mars, it is rude to offer help unless you are first asked. And so, what that means for women, remember that a man looks for cues telling him when and how to give more. He waits to be asked. For men, remember that a woman instinctively does not ask for support when she wants it. Instead, she expects you to offer it if you love her. Practice offering to supporting her in little ways. Number four, Venusians say yes even when the score is uneven. Men don't realize that when they ask for support, a woman will say yes even if the score is uneven. So, what that means for men, remember that if she says yes to your request, it doesn't mean the score is even. The score may be 20-0 in her mind, and she will still happily say, sure, I'll pick up your clothes at the cleaners. Or, okay, I'll make that call for you. For women, remember that if you immediately say yes to a man's request, he gets the idea that he has given more or that the score is at least even. If you are giving more and getting less, stop saying yes to his request. Instead, in a graceful way, begin asking him to do more for you. And number five, Martians give penalty points. Women don't realize that men give penalty points when they feel unloved and unsupported. When a woman reacts to a man in an untrusting, rejecting, disapproving, or unappreciative way, he gives minus or penalty points. So, what that means for men, remember that penalty points are not fair and do not work. At moments when you feel unloved, offended, or hurt, forgive her and remember all the good things, all good she has given, rather than penalize her by negating it all. What that means for women, remember that men have this tendency to give penalty points. There are two approaches to protect yourself from this abuse. The first approach is to recognize that he's wrong in taking away your points. In a respectful way, let him know how you feel. The second approach is to recognize he takes away points when he feels unloved and hurt, and he immediately gives them back when he feels loved and supported. So, a lot of stuff, a lot of information in here that seem to be rather complicated, right? Lindsay in the house, how are you doing? Thanks for joining. Let's see some comments. I always say thank you to my partner, my children, my friends, because everyone wants validation for the things they do. My longest relationship, 3 years. No matter what we always said thank you. One of the things he would actually compliment on was how I still said thank you to him, even for just opening a door. That's great. That is great. Thank you promotes kindness, and two words never do get old. You should always thank your partner and acknowledge them. Feeling appreciated as a person feels really nice and help to not feel taken advantage of. Yeah, I'm overly appreciative of the thoughtfulness of men to the point of tears, hugs, and kisses. I'm taking you guys with me on a drive around the corner to get a coffee, low, so I don't miss anything. Sounds good. Get that coffee. True, women can tend to think men should mind read. Women in my family, that is. Oh wow, be careful. Be careful out there, your mother. Good stuff. Let's continue on. So next one on the list, how men give points. Men give points differently from women. Every time a woman appreciates what a man has done for her, he feels loved and gives her a point in return. To keep the score even in the relationship, a man really doesn't require anything but love. Women don't realize the power of their love and many times unnecessarily seek to earn a man's love by doing more things for him than they want to do. When a woman appreciates what a man does for her, he gets much of the love he needs. Remember, men primarily need appreciation. And that's true, ladies. I think that this is a big point. So I want to stop here and just reiterate that is that men don't get enough appreciation. You know, appreciation is not just doing things. Appreciation is an acknowledgement. Appreciation is when another person hears and has a confirmation that indeed he's being appreciated. When that happens, I think that really can open up a lot of doors, at least in men's mind. And I think at that point, men would be more open to give back and to be loving in return. Uh, so this is a powerful tool because think about if you think, let me put it that way, if you believe that man is being acknowledged and being appreciated by other people, you'll be surprised how many men go through life without ever receiving the feedback about ever giving appreciation. So if he cannot get that from his woman, he really would be in dire circumstances. And sometimes you can just simply observe. Go to a grocery store next time and pay attention when you see a couple, a married couple that's been together for a while, and just look at the body language. That some of these men, they just look tired. They look exhausted. And there seem to be like resentment build up. And listen, I'm sure that I'm not to say, I'm giving an example specifically as it pertains to appreciation of the man. So don't take it as if men don't have any work to do. Of course they do. But in the context of this appreciation thing for men, you can just simply observe that the behavior of some of these couples. And even sometimes when men do some of these nice things for their women, if it doesn't get acknowledged with time, I think you becoming less involved, less invested in that relationship of yours as a man. Appreciation is a big thing. So let's continue on. Certainly, a man also requires equal participation from a woman in doing the domestic duties of day to day life. But if he is not appreciated, then her contribution is nearly meaningless and completely unimportant to him. So let me read this again. Certainly, man also requires equal participation from a woman in doing the domestic duties of day to day life. But if he is not appreciated, then her contribution is nearly meaningless and completely unimportant to him. And this could be a tough one for women to understand or to accept, but there's truth to that. Because if you do things as a man and then you just don't get anything, any acknowledgement in return, I think in the man's mind, it diminishes what you do as a woman. Because one of the main things that you're looking for, the acknowledgement, isn't there. Just like women would need to be validated by acknowledging their feelings and being able to listen, man would be validated by one of the things is the appreciation. It's the woman's way to validate a man. That's how I would put it. Similarly, a woman cannot appreciate the big things a man does for her unless he's also doing a lot of little things. Doing a lot of little things fulfills her primary need to feel cared for, understood, and respected. A major source of love for a man is the loving reaction that a woman has to his behavior. He has a love tank too, but he is not necessarily filled by what she does for him. Instead, it is mainly filled by how she reacts to him or how she feels about him. Whew. It gets complicated. It gets complicated. Latai, what's going on? Thanks for being here. This literally happened to me yesterday. I was on my lunch break, and while I was in line, this older couple was ahead of me. The lady was bossing her poor husband around, and I was like, well, dang, can he not just choose what he wants? Said. Women and men both need acknowledgement and always did this to my partner, and I found that they started taking it for granted. Poor guy looked like he's been dealing with it his whole life. Controlling behavioral is never a good thing. No, don't apologize. This is a good example, dear. So the thing is that with some men, we instinctively know that picking up a fight or say something back at that moment, like that example that you gave, could be more costly in the end. And if you gather that, if you had the impression that he was, where's your comment? So if that lady was doing that for years, then at that point I would say this man is probably exhausted. He knows that he's not going to win the fight, or it might not be worth it to him at all. So that's sad to me. That's sad to me because I idealize that after so much time, you should become stronger as a couple. You should be able to do things to uplift each other. But based on this example, that's not always the case. My fiance and I celebrated our 12-year anniversary, and I can honestly say showing appreciation for each other has been the glue that holds us together. Respect and appreciation goes a long way. Nice. That's awesome. So, how women can score big with men? So, what happens? He makes a mistake and she doesn't say, I told you so, or offer advice. Points he gives her 10 to 20. He disappoints her and she doesn't punish him. again receives 10 to 20 points from him. He gets lost while driving and she doesn't make a big deal out of it. 10 to 20 points from him. He gets lost and she sees the good in the situation and says, "We would never have seen this beautiful sunset if we had taken the most direct route." She gets points. He forgets to pick up something and she says, "It's okay. Would you do it next time you are out?" She gets points. He forgets to pick up something again and she says, with trusting patience and persistence, "It's okay. Would you still get it?" So this is like these two examples right here. He made a mistake once. He forgot. She asked him, "Would you get it next time?" Still forgets, still didn't get it. Next time she didn't get upset. She still says, "It's okay. Would you still get it?" A reasonable man at this point, you know, at this point, I would argue a reasonable man would write this down, would run back to the store, because this is not the first time he forgot. This is the second time he forgot, right? So adjustments must be made. It's not one of those things to where you can just, it's hard for a woman. I would imagine it would be difficult for a woman continue to just asking for things and being nice if things, these basic things would not be done, right? So the point is as a man, you have to take accountability for that. But if as a woman, you're able to do this and you're able to portray that type of attitude, these are the type of women that you end up getting a ring. Why? Because it's not about, uh, at the end of the day, physical attraction is important in the beginning, but physical attraction without appreciation, without patience, without respect, without collaborative work, without compromising, physical attraction fades away rather quickly and it becomes secondary. Because when you start living together, when you're married or when you're in a long term relationship, physical attraction isn't the priority anymore, because day to day things kick in. And if you cannot communicate and you cannot compromise and appreciate each other, uplift each other, then things really becoming different. Not just different, things can escalate rather quickly from good to bad. Controlling women destroy men. I've seen it with my own mother, and destroy children. Put me off relationship for life. No, sorry. I'm sorry to hear that, and thank you for sharing, Michelle. I know that's personal. Oh my God. Yeah, I have been at grocery store and have seen men being belittled by the woman right in public too. And I want to listen, since we are really getting into this nitty gritty things, like important stuff, these details right here. Understand that yes, some men will choose to stay in that relationship because of children. Some men will choose to stay in such relationship when they've been belittled and disrespected, because maybe they hope that their woman will change, because they think back about good times with that woman. But you also have to realize that there's going to be a number of men who will never stay in those type of relationships, no matter what. So the idea in premises is that you got your man and your man is not going anywhere. It's BS. And the same thing with the other way around. The idea and the premise that your woman, just because she has your children, or because she loved you in the past, or because you're making a lot of money. Now money is a complicated, I don't want to say it's a different story, but money is a complicated subject, because some people can care less about other things. As long as they have good living, they will tolerate shit. But in a lot of cases, people need more than just lures of the past, so to speak. They need they need to feel loved. They need to feel appreciated, and that takes work. Those things don't happen by accident. Those things don't work on autopilot. That's a consistent engagement and investment on both partners' behalf. My point being, I really want to just bring this up because that job is never done. And like, discarding someone for the sake of thinking, because you've been together for a while and because you're comfortable with each other, and because you think that your man or your woman is not going to go anywhere, you have them. That's false narrative. People are people. And this is rather choosing an easy way out, or not even way out. That's choosing an easy route, I would say. Because when you choose to give into your emotions, or to your own traumas, and to your mother's example, to belittle your significant other, this is never going to lead to a positive long-term outcomes. It just doesn't. There's no way you can spin it to where belittling it, belittling, be, bel there's no way you can spin it to where disrespecting someone, let's use that word, or belittling someone can get you points. It just doesn't make any sense. So don't do it. The point is, don't do it. I'm very much not a public person. That is another thing. Personal business is for home. Yes, but even if you belittle your man at home, it's not going to make a difference. That's probably not what you meant. But yes, I agree with the fact that you should not be doing your dirty laundry out in the open. If you're going to have a heart-to-heart conversation, or if you're going to make a smarky remark to your man, it's not good anyway. But it's especially not good when you do it in public, when you do it in front of somebody else. Just like, imagine if your man would say something disrespectful to you or belittling to you out in public when other people can hear and see it. That's foul. To be fair, I have also seen men doing the same thing to women too. Of course, we're not bashing women here. We just take a specific example and we're reviewing it. The behavior itself is inappropriate. The act of belittling your partner is never an okay thing. It's so in so many. I mean, I can go in deeper, but in many different ways. There are a number of reasons as to why it's inappropriate, right? First of all, I mean, why would you want to belittle someone that you with? This is the person that you chose, first of all. So you telling me that the person that you chose, you're going to put down. So when it comes to belittling, a lot of it comes down to the person who does belittling. So I'm pointing the thumbs is because, if you ever find yourself in a situation when you belittle someone, you feel the need to not address the issue, but you actually feel the need to say something about your partner to put them down. Chances are you need to do this, and you need to do a little bit of a self-reflection. Because what would be the reason for doing that? What would be the reason for not being able to address the issue? What do you have some resentment built up with that person, or do you have low self-esteem, or you know some issues that you haven't dealt with or haven't addressed mentally, or psychologically, emotionally? What is that? I flinch whenever I see controlling behaviors with men or women. Um, Me too. For me personally, though, it is odd to see women doing it. I guess naturally I expect it to be the man, but that is not necessarily correct. Bit more taboo, though, Jamie, although things seem to be changing slowly. Someone can be attractive, but if they don't bring stability, communication, and appreciation, eventually that pretty face isn't going to be enough. Not having that stability will only cause resentment. Yes, at the end of the day, you don't live with, you don't marry. Well, you do marry a person in a nice body, but you live with personality. You live with character, not just personality. You live with character. So the smart thing to do, and don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting the body, especially for a man. That's how we approach women to begin with. I said that many times. If you think that your physical appearance does not matter as a woman, that's how we approach you to begin with. But that's not how we choose to stay with you. There is a big distinction there. We choose to stay with you, or we choose to marry you because of your character, because of who you are. Great conversation so far. Where were we? I think you get the idea about these examples. These are some good practical examples right here. So we're going to move on to the next topic. When a woman can score more points. Each of above examples reveals how men score points differently from women. But a woman is not required to do all of the above. The list reveals those times when he's most vulnerable. If she can be supportive in giving him what he needs, he will be very generous in giving points. As mentioned in chapter 7, a woman's ability to give love at difficult times fluctuates like a wave. When a woman's ability to give love is increasing during the upswing of her wave, it is the time when she can score many bonus points. She should not expect herself to be as loving at other times. Let's see. I think right here, this point right here that I want to talk about. If a man has made a mistake and feels embarrassed, sorry, or ashamed, then he needs her love more. The bigger the mistake, the more points he gives. This is a very important point. Why? Because when man makes a mistake, he knows it. A reasonable man knows it. He will feel bad as is. And he, so to speak, he's going to be down. So if you choose to punch him or kick him when he is down, that could really hurt, emotionally speaking. And if you choose to say, I love you, and show even more love during this time, that is what really going to, I mean, that's going to open up, not open up. I'm having a hard time finding words. But if you're able to do this when the man's down, to support him and give him a lot of love, that's going to make him appreciate you more. That's the bottom line. That's what I'm trying to say. Diana in the house? Oh, hello, Diana. How are you? Thanks for being here. Is there anything else in here? I want to skip some of these things. I want to go to the love letter technique. How to communicate difficult feelings. So let's look at that really quickly. How to communicate difficult feelings. When we are upset, disappointed, frustrated, or angry, it is difficult to communicate lovingly. When negative emotions come up, we tend momentarily to lose our loving feeling of trust, caring, understanding, acceptance, appreciation, and respect. At such times, even with the best intentions, taking turns into fighting in the heat of the moment, we do not remember how to communicate in a way that works for our partner or for us. At times like these, women unknowingly tend to blame men and make them feel guilty for their actions. Instead of remembering that her partner is doing the best he can, a woman could assume the worst and sound critical and resentful. When she feels a surge of negative feelings, it is especially difficult for a woman to speak in a trusting, accepting, and appreciative way. She doesn't realize how negative and hurtful her attitude is to her partner. When men become upset, they tend to become judgmental of women and women's feelings. Instead of remembering that his partner is vulnerable and sensitive, a man may forget her needs and sound mean and uncaring. When he feels a surge of negative feelings, it is especially difficult for him to speak in a caring, understanding, and respectful way. He doesn't realize how hurtful his negative attitude is to her. Hmm. Whenever you share the feelings in your letter, or you just write a letter to feel better, writing down your feelings is an essential tool. The love letter technique. One of the best ways to release negativity and then communicate in a more loving fashion is to use the love letter technique. Through writing out your feelings in a particular manner, the negative emotions automatically lessen and the positive feelings increase. The love letter technique enhances the letter writing process. These are three aspects or parts to the love letter technique. Write a love letter expressing your feeling of anger, sadness, fear, regret, and love. Write a response letter expressing that you want to hear from your partner. Share your love letter in response letter with your partner. It's pretty intense. And then the book goes into step by step explaining how to do this. So you can remember that I have PDF of this electronic um, book, or PDF of that book, in the description of the video, so you can access it and check it out. So for the time's sake, we're not going to go through it, but it gives you example of how to write the letter specifically for anger, for sadness, for fear, for regret, for love. You can express all those things. So this is actual example right here. Anger. I am furious that you forgot. I'm angry that you overslept. I hate it when you take naps and forget everything. I am tired of feeling responsible for everything. You expect me to do everything. I am tired of this. Dang. Whew. That's rough. That's rough. Let's look at some comments and then we'll jump to a different section. I think there are no comments right now. All right. So if there are no comments, we're going to go to why women don't ask for support, because that is another important topic. All right. Why women don't ask. Women make the mistake of thinking they don't have to ask for support because they intuitively feel the need of others and give whenever they can. They mistakenly expect men to do the same. When a woman is in love, she instinctively offers her love. With great delight and enthusiasm, she looks for ways to offer her support. The more the more she loves someone, the more motivated she is to offer her love. By convenience, everyone automatically gives support, so there was no reason to ask for it. In fact, not needing to ask is one of the ways they show their love for one another. On Venus, their motto is love is never having to ask. Because this is her reference point, she assumes that if her partner loves her, he will offer her his support, and she won't have to ask. She might even purposely not ask as a test. Please don't do that, ladies. With all these tests, please don't do that. Just ask. Just ask for the sake of God. Uh, where was I? She may even purposely not ask as a test to see if he really loves her. To pass the test, she requires that he anticipate her needs and offer his unsolicited support. This approach to relationship with men doesn't work. Men are from Mars, and on Mars, if you want support, you simply have to ask. Men are not instinctively motivated to offer their support. They need to be asked. This can be very confusing because if you ask a man for support in the wrong way, he gets turned off. And if you don't ask at all, you'll get literally you get little or none. In the beginning of a relationship, if a woman doesn't get the support she wants, she then assumes that he is not giving because he has nothing more to give. She patiently and lovingly continues to give, assuming that sooner or later he will catch up. He assumes, however, he is giving enough because she continues giving to him. He doesn't realize she's experiencing no, he does not realize she's expecting him to give back. He thinks that if she needed or wanted more, she would stop giving. But since she's from Venus, she not only wants more, but also expects him to offer his support without being asked. But he is waiting for her to start asking for support if she wants it. If she is not asking for support, he assumes he is given enough. Oh, man. I used to write love notes every morning and put it under my now ex partner's cushion. Words of affirmation. Nice. Valerie, what's going on? Thanks for being here. Asking for support. Asking for support. That's what we're talking about. Not assuming that he knows, but actually communicating what the need is. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And listen, you might not like the fact that men don't instinctively give enough the same way that women do. Let's just go with that premise. Let's just go with that premise. I'm not going to argue whether it's true or not true. I mean, this guy is uh, I guess, clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, one or the other. He's been in it for a while. And so he probably knows. So assuming that that's the case, right? Assuming that that's the true assumption, or not assumption, that's the true knowledge that men don't give instinctively. If you know that, then you should feel comfortable asking for it. And why I think it can be truth is because you know men just don't. The principle is different with men. I think this is where the feminine versus masculine comes in. Because, when you look at how women operate, I think being nurturing is a big part of personality for many women. And that's not a part of personality for many men. And notice, I didn't say all, I said for many women. So there are always exceptions there. And I didn't say for all men because there are always exceptions there too. But I think you will find that a lot of women naturally are given in nurturing. And you will find that a lot of men naturally not nurturing or giving. And if we operate under that premise, it becomes obvious that asking for it is more than okay. I thought men would be more in tune, but no one reads minds, I guess. I had to realize that I had expectations of my husband that he was unaware of, meaning that I just expected him to do things without asking. I was of the mindset that came easily to me. It came easily to me and should to him, right? That is interesting, isn't it? It is very interesting. Part of the reason why we're doing this is for that very reason. Part of a reason why we're doing it is for that very reason. I guess we'll go with that. This is to be able to identify things that don't meet the eye. If we don't talk about it, how are we supposed to know these things? And to your point, dear, man, I can guarantee you that man is not going to be aware of some of these things. So this assumption on women's behalf is not going to be accurate. Just like assumption on men's behalf of that women should be able to ask naturally is incorrect as well, because apparently that's not, we operate differently. I had to realize that my man is not a mind reader. It is not that he doesn't care. He doesn't know if I need help if I don't ask. So this is a great point. We are not mind readers. And I think naturally a lot of men would be willing to help. And this is where asking a question becomes super important. Even if you listen, I think if you ask a question, that any no assumptions no longer needed. You just ask a question and you see what happens. And the more direct question, the better. And that's going to be, we're actually going to talk about it in a little bit, but you communicate clearly what the needs are. There's going to be a distinction between could you and would you type of question. So stick around. By the way, if you just join us, don't forget to smash the like button. Share this live show somewhere on your social media, or send it to someone who you think could benefit from it, so we can get a little bit more people enjoying this content and learning new information. I think women assume that if a man loves them, they will automatically give support. Men are not going to recognize that a woman needs support in most cases. It is important to ask for what you need. Women tend to pick up on verbal cues. Men don't as much, I think. Appreciate you sharing all the great points. I really like this conversation. All right, let's continue on. Tips for motivating a man. I think this is important. There are 5 secrets of how to correctly ask a Martian for support. If they are not observed, he may be easily turned off. They are appropriate timing, non demanding attitude, be brief, be direct, and use correct wording. So, appropriate timing. Be careful not to ask him to do something that he's obviously just planning to do. For example, if he's about to empty the trash, don't say, "Could you empty the trash? Girl, don't you see me on my way to the trash can?" Yeah, that's me talking. He will feel you are telling him what to do. Timing is crucial. Crucial. Also, if he is fully focused on something, don't expect him immediately to respond to your request. Non-demanding attitude. Remember, a request is not a demand. If you have a resentful or demanding attitude, no matter how carefully you choose your words, he will feel unappreciated for what he has already given and probably say no. Be brief. Avoid giving him a list of reasons why he should help you. Assume that he doesn't have to be convinced. 100%. The longer you explain yourself, the more he will resist. Long explanations validating your request make him feel as though you don't trust him to support you. He will start to feel manipulated instead of free to offer his support. When asking a man for support, assume that he doesn't have to be convinced. 4, be direct. Women often think they are asking for support when they are not. When she needs support, a woman may present the problem but not directly ask for his support. She expects him to offer his support and neglect directly to ask for it. That's a big one, too. Don't give me a proposal, just tell me what you need. What he may hear when she is non direct. Would you pick up the kids? Brief and direct. That's the example of it. What she should not say. The kids need to be picked up and I can't do it. What he hears when she's indirect. If you can pick up them, if you can't pick them up, you should. Otherwise, I will feel very unsupported and resent you. Couple other examples. Would you bring in the groceries? The groceries are in the car is the indirect example. What he would hear if she says it indirectly. It's your job to bring them in. I went shopping. That creates an expectation. What she should say. Would you empty the trash? What's the indirect approach? I can't find anything else in the trash can. What she will hear, what he will hear if you say it indirectly. You haven't emptied the trash. You shouldn't wait so long. Criticism. So you can see how a simple variation of changing the wording of the question changes everything. Important stuff here. And then number 5, use correct wording. One of the most common mistakes in asking for support is the use of could and can in place of would and will. Could you empty the trash is merely a question gathering information. Would you empty the trash is a request. So this is pretty self-explanatory. Instead of using would and will, instead of could and can. What men want to be asked? When I explain the distinction between the C word and the W word in my seminars, women tend to think I am making a big deal over nothing. To women, there is not much difference. In fact, could you may even seem more polite than would you. But to many men, it is a big difference because this distinction is so important. I am including comments by 17 different men who attended my seminar. So I'm going to read a couple of them to you. So first man, one of the men said, when I'm asked, could you clean up the backyard? I really take it literally. I say, I could do it. Sure, it's possible, but I'm not saying I will do it. And I certainly don't feel like I am making a promise to do it. On the other hand, when I'm asked, would you clean up the backyard? I begin to make a decision and I am willing to be supportive. If I say yes, the chances of my remembering to do it are much greater because I have made a promise. Another man said, just this last week, my wife asked me, could you plant the flowers today? And without hesitation, I said yes. Then, when she came home, she asked, did you plant the flowers? I said no. She said, could you do it tomorrow? And again, without hesitation, I said yes. This happened every day this week, and the flowers are still not planted. 20 years later, could you still plant the flowers? He's like, yes. Comes back home in 5 years, still nothing. She will be saying, you've been planting these flowers for 20 years. God, what happened to you? This happened every day this week, and the flowers are still not planted. I think if she had asked me, would you plant the flowers tomorrow? I would have thought about it And if I had said yes, I would have done it. Oh my God. Seems easier to play chess. Yes, indeed. Indeed. All right, let's go to the next one. There are a few more things that I wanted to address. Common mistakes in asking. The hardest part of learning to ask is remembering how to do it. Try using the W words whether possible. It will take a lot of practice. To ask a man for support, be direct, be brief, use would you or will you phrases. It's best not to be too indirect, too lengthy, or to employ phrases such as could you or can you. Let's look at some examples. So, do say, would you empty the trash can? Trash can. Don't say, this kitchen is a mess. It really stinks. I can't fit anything else into the trash bag. That's how you really start sounding when you're saying this. It needs to be emptied. Could you do it? All I can think of is like a nagging monster, versus just a woman who says, "This is how it would sound if you say direct question in my head. Would you empty a trash can?" Versus, "This kitchen is a mess. It really stinks. I can't fit anything else in the trash bag. It needs to be emptied." Oh, I kind of like it. Let's keep it going. Would you help me move this table? Reasonable, direct woman talking with you. I can't move this table. I need to rearrange it before our party tonight. Could you please help me? Would you please put this away for me? I can't put all of this away. Cry baby. Would you bring the groceries from the car? I have 4 bags of groceries left in the car, and I need that food to make dinner. Could you bring them in? Listen, you get the point. It's just all of that stuff is exhausting. It is completely exhausting. Just ask a freaking direct question. Nothing else is needed. Nothing else is necessary. Okie dokie? You have to be concise and direct with men. Men do not like a woman harping on the same problem. If he says he's going to clean out the garage this weekend and she harps at him about it on Friday, but he prepares for Saturday, it may turn off from doing it all together and start an argument. Correct. Correct. If you know if I told you I'm gonna do it this weekend and it's not Sunday 11:59 p.m., don't bug me. Give me opportunity to get the job done on my terms. If I promised you I was going to do it on Friday, different story. If we talked about doing it on a weekend and you start bugging me like a little child as if I don't remember to do it, you might annoy so much. You might annoy the shit out of me to where I say, you know what, I might not going to do it. Just in spite of it, right? It's not a good thing, but it's not a good thing for you to bug me either, right? It doesn't help anybody. Watching your tone of voice when asking for something matters also. Yes, it does. Of course it does. 100%. So if you listen, I gave you a funny example how it's going to go down if you are asking indirect question, but let's just flip that thing around. So if you say even a direct question, but would you empty a trash can? Would you help me to move this table? Who's going to want to help you? I mean, like if a man asks you similar thing, something basic, hey, I'm so hungry. Will you make me a sandwich? Who who would want to? What woman would want to make a sandwich to for her man? Of course, it matters. It's not just direct. It's your tone of voice, it's your body language. Just ask him if he wants to take the trash can out so he can say no directly. A simple direct question such as, when you get a minute, would you take out a trash please, takes less energy and usually accepted immediately. Yes, exactly. We need more direct questions when you're communicating with men. Less fluff. All right, let's go. That here's another important element to this whole deal that I wanted to share with you. The pregnant pose. One of the key elements of assertive asking is to remain silent after you have asked for support. Allow your partner to work through their resistance. Be careful not to disapprove of his grumbles. As long as you pause and remain silent, you have the possibility of getting his support. If you break the silence, you lose your power. Women unknowingly break their silence and lose their power by making comments like, oh, forget it. I can't believe you are saying no. I do so much for you. I don't ask you for much. It will only take you 15 minutes. I feel disappointed. This really hurts my feelings. You mean you won't do this for me? Why can't you do it? Etc., etc., etc. You get the idea. When he grumbles, she feels the urge to defend her request and mistakenly breaks her silence. She argues with her partner in an attempt to convince him that he should do it. Whether he does it or not, he will be more resistant next time she asks for his support. So this is also an important point. The reason why is because don't jump the gun before he has a chance to answer your question. If you're not going to allow him to work through whatever he needs to work through in order to answer his question, you can actually make situation worse. You ask your question, step away, be silent. You don't require an explanation why you ask a question unless you're asking him for something that like if we're talking about, you know, something that will require a significant amount of time, not a basic request. But if we're talking about taking out a trash, it's a question and then silence, nothing else, because you actually don't need to be able to justify it. You don't need to be able to, you know, prove him as to why he should do it. You want to know his natural response to a minute thing that you ask him to do. And this is very important. It's very important for his own sake and for your own sake. This is a effective communication 101. That impression though, which one? I did a lot of them. All right, few more things, my friends. There was something about the delay reaction response. The delayed reaction response. Just as love many goodness gracious. Just as love may bring up our past unresolved feelings, so does getting what you want. I remember when I first learned about this. Many years ago, I had wanted sex from my partner, but she wasn't in the mood. In my mind, I accepted that. The next the next day, I hinted around and she still was not interested. This pattern continued every day. By the end of 2 weeks, I was beginning to feel resentful. But at that time in my life, I didn't know how to communicate feelings. Instead of talking about my feelings and my frustration, I just kept pretending as if everything were okay. I was stuffing my negative feelings and trying to be loving. For 2 weeks, my resentment continued to build. I did everything I knew to please her and make her happy while inside, while inside, I was resenting her rejection of me. At the end of 2 weeks, I went out and bought her a pretty nightgown. I brought it home, and that evening I gave it to her. She opened the box and was happily surprised. I asked her to try it on. She said she wasn't in the mood. At this point, I gave up. I just forgot about sex. I buried myself in work and gave up my desire for sex. In my mind, I made it okay by suppressing my feeling of resentment. About 2 weeks later, however, when I came home from work, she had prepared a romantic meal and was wearing the nightgown I had brought her 2 weeks before. The lights were low and soft music was on in the background. You can imagine my reaction. All of a sudden, I felt a surge of resentment. Inside, I felt, now you suffer for 4 weeks. All of the resentment that I had suppressed for the last 4 weeks suddenly was coming up. After talking about these feelings, I realized that her willingness to give me what I wanted released my old resentment. This is a tough one, all right? Because there's so many ways you can look at this particular situation. First of all, I get the fact that not everyone will be in the mood to have sex all the time. But I also think in this particular example, w- you know, making your partner wait for sex 1 month, that seems extremely unreasonable. And listen, I'm gonna say that I think with men, more I just I just don't see how with most men it's going to be sex ever going to be a problem. Giving sex ever going to be a problem. Now, this is how we receive love a lot of times. This is how we express love and how we know we being loved is when we receive sex as men. And this is where like if it was a different example, it would have been easy. With sex, I think it's one of the major point for a lot of guys out there. And because of that, you know, if you know that as a woman, it is not a minute thing, it's a major thing. And my thing with this specific example, I'm very being a stickler to details on this one, because if you had a bad night and you had headache and you really just didn't weren't in the mood, understandable, okay? But you also know that it's important to him and he is your partner. So can you, the next day, can you initiate something when you recovered? Or let's say in a couple of days when you recovered. I think the timing matters. With this particular example, 1 month, that just seems unreasonable. Because if you know that that's what he needs and that's his way to receive love and to show love, to express his love through this physical affection, through intimacy, then you are withholding his opportunity to receive and to showcase love. And I would say 1 month, unless something happened to you and you became sick all of a sudden, that's not a regular example. 1 month, it is not, you cannot justify that. So I would argue that at this point in this example, you withholding sex. And we talked about it before, withholding sex with man, that's going to build a lot of resentment. If you're going to withhold sex in a relationship against man as your way to prove a point, good luck keeping that relationship. You're either going to have man who is going to be living with you who will resent you, or you're going to have man who is going to say, screw her, even though she won't let me, by leaving you, by leaving you. It's a big deal for men. So I think we need to become both genders. On the other hand, I'm not bashing women here, by the way. On the other hand, if man is constantly shuts down and not listening to his woman and not validating, not acknowledging his woman, that is going to create a lot of problems. And oh, by the way, this is actually a good example because you might say, well, it's not the same thing. Sex and listening to a person is not the same thing. But it's in terms of importance, if you were going to put points on how important it is for both genders, yes, you can actually draw a line between the two. Men are more physical, women are more looking for not to say that women aren't physical, they are, but not to the same extent as men. And the priority is to feel understood, feel heard, um, and being validated. That's what I'm getting from that book, from this particular book. I mean, and therefore, look, imagine if the situation was turned, if he would not listen to you for 1 month. How would you remember after a man not listening to you for 1 month, using this exact same example, would you remember the good things he did for you before? Because that's the suggestion that's been made, right? Look at the last thing that after talks about. So you can imagine my reaction. All of a sudden, I felt a surge of resentment. Inside, I felt, now you suffer for 4 weeks. All of the resentment that I had suppressed for the last 4 weeks suddenly was coming up. After talking about these feelings, I realized that her willingness to give me what I wanted released my old resentments. And listen, as a man, I'll be honest with you, ladies, I can talk to you about it, but if you're not dishing out for 4 weeks, the resentment is going to be there. So I don't believe for a moment that just because you and I are going to talk about it, that that whatever you've been going through for 4 weeks, that you withhold sex, that all of a sudden magically I will feel wonderful and I just everything's going to be back to normal. No, it won't be normal. Again, there's going to be consequences, circumstances, I mean, that could differ things. I'm not going to come and complain to you if I know there's something really going on with you physically, right? But if that's being used, if that's being a tactic they use to withhold sex, listen, that's not it's not just going to be easily forgotten, because there's a lot of questions as to why. Like, if this is again the way that we're going to work together and express love and affection and understanding, and you just choose to withhold it again, how would you feel if I did withhold my attention for 1 month from you and wouldn't listen to you? So we need to be able to recognize these things. 1 month seems excessive. I know people have high and low sex drives, but she was trying to punish him for something. And that's another thing too with the the sex drive thing is important. It's not to be underestimated. If if you are dating someone that is not sexually active and you are a person who needs it all the time, listen, I don't know what to tell you. There's a disconnect there. Now, some of you might say, well, we're comparable in other areas. Well, you may be. But if it's a big deal for a guy, let's just use man as example, because man, um, a lot of times, sexaholic. They need a lot of sex. Some women too. Don't get me wrong. There's actually it's a misconception. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna definitely acknowledge that there's a misconception. There's a lot of women that love sex and want a lot of sex. And if both men and women who have a similar sex drive together, that's a beautiful thing. There's no problem. At least in that department, right? They both desire each other. They want to have a lot of sex time, and that's all great. But I would argue that if you're telling me that one person, let's use men as an example, that wants sex all the time and the woman only wants sex once a week, I mean, she the enjoyment factor is not there for her. So it's not to say that, oh, she's a bad person. No, she doesn't have the same sex drive. She does not want it. This needs to be, that needs to be a known factor. If as a woman you pretend just to please your man in the dating phase, but you really don't like sex that much, what do you think is going to happen later on? You're not going to be able to pretend for the rest of your life. You got to be honest with him. You got to say, look, I know you like it a lot, but I don't really care for all of that. And that means that this relationship doesn't work. At least it doesn't work in the beginning, as opposed to it's not working after you've been married and having kids. She figured he would mind, read, and ask what the problem was until he didn't, and she decided to give in. Sex can be a big deal for both men and women, depending on the sex drive and personal love languages. Sometimes depends on sex drive of the individual. Some women have high sex drive and take the initiative. Some women withhold as punishment, and others something physically, mentally. I'm usually the one with higher sex drive. Let's go. That's my that was my initial reaction. Let's go. Or emotional is going on with completely different. I think it was continuation to this. So some women withhold as punishment and others something physically, mentally, or emotional is going on, which is completely different. All right. So definitely, sex drive is a big factor. Not withholding sex through in the relationship is a big factor. Just like man would not want to withhold attention on purpose from their partner, that would be a recipe for disaster. Becoming aware of all those things. All right, let's see. And I think he closes up with successful relationship. Um, I think there's one part that I wanted to read. Next time you are frustrated with the opposite sex, remember men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Even if you don't remember anything else from this book, remembering that we are supposed to be different will help you to be more loving. By gradually releasing your judgments and blame and persistently asking for what you want, you can create the loving relationship you want, need, and deserve. This is an important point. This is one thing that I did not realize when I was younger. The difference between two genders, our needs, how we communicate, what do we expect, and how we navigate life is different. It just is. Men and women not built the same way. We don't communicate the same way. We don't perceive, the some of the values in the same way. And learning these things, to the author's point, can really make a difference between successful relationship and a relationship where you constantly just hit your head against the wall. And that's it. That's really what it is. So if you take away anything from the last 4 weeks, that's how long we've been reviewing this one book, is that the difference is real. And just remember that you can attempt to understand the other person's needs and how the other person operates and what you can do to do your part, really. Let's see what else we have. So I also want to remind you again about the community. This is an amazing, amazing Prototype Fam community. We are on Discord where you can engage with people from all walks of life, from different countries, and have conversations based on different topics. You can also become a member of the channel to gain additional access and perks. And we, for members, we have um, a really fun, exclusive Instagram chat where we send a lot of daily voice messages, discuss what's going on in the world, discuss what's going on in our lives, talking about delicious foods, proprietary cheesecakes. Uh, yeah, I'm not going to explain what that is. You have to become a member to know what that is. Just know that you're missing out. If you're not a member and if you don't know what proprietary cheesecake is, that's a part of life that you could have that would make your life better. Long story short, you have additional opportunities to get involved with the Prototype Fam and with some really unique individuals that come from all the corners of this amazing world. Next live show is going to take place on Sunday, March 27th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. The topic is to be decided. We're done with this book. This book is finished. You have 4 different live shows worth of information, including today's. So you can go back and look at all the different concepts and conversation that took place. This last 4 weeks is like a library on its own of information that you can gather. So if you haven't had a chance to look at previous live shows in the last 4 weeks, I highly, highly encourage you to go back and check it out. Um, there are chapters associated with different topics. And after this video is done, I also will go back and insert the chapters in so you can actually go through and click on a particular chapter of interest. So you don't have to watch the entire 2-hour live show. You can pick and choose of a specific concept that you would like to learn about and hear the discussion on. That's the beautiful thing about YouTube. But as far as the next live show, I am going to do voting for the next topic of discussion. And that voting will appear in my community tab on YouTube. And my goal is to get it out in the next 2 to 3 days. So by the end of Tuesday, you should be able to see the topics that I would like to discuss or that I would offer up for discussion. And I need you to cast your vote for your preferred topic that you deem interesting. Okay. There's going to be 3 to 5 topics as far as the options for the next live show. Please give me a favor. Go under my YouTube channel's community tab before the end of Tuesday and cast your vote for a topic that you deem interesting. Other than that, thank you so much for joining me today live. I always love our interactions. We had some amazing people here today. Appreciate everyone's feedback or everyone's comments. It's so much fun. And I feel like we learn from each other every time. So I want to make sure I acknowledge some people who were here. Dia, thank you for being here. Jamie, thank you so much for participating. Michelle, thank you for joining us live. Valerie, thank you for being here. Lindsay, did I already say Lindsay? Not yet. Lindsay, thank you for being here. Appreciate your participation. I know we had more. I know Heather was here. Felicia was here earlier. And your mother was here earlier. Thank you for being here. Your mother and participating. Let's see. Moonshine Mermaid. This is awesome. Thank you for being here and engaging with us. Felicia, appreciate your participation. Heather was here earlier. So thank you very much. With that being said, another great conversation. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for being here, for sharing. I hope that you all doing well. I certainly hope to see you next weekend and potentially before. And listen, I apologize for not being as consistent with videos. I know I haven't been putting out a lot of content lately. I've been in a little bit of a funk lately with everything that goes on in the world. My schedule, my content schedule hasn't been consistent. And that's that. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. More videos coming up. I don't have specific details besides the live show next week, but the Dolphin 1985. Appreciate you being here as well. I don't have a specific date for the next video, but stay tuned. If you haven't set your notifications to all, you can do that by clicking on the bell and then choosing to receive all notifications. I would recommend you do that so you can stay informed of when the new videos or live streams are happening. But I appreciate every single one of you. I hope that you have an amazing day and you have a great rest of your weekend and you have an amazing next week. As always, be grateful for what you do have. And I will be seeing you definitely next weekend. Peace.